He's saying, Islamists, no, you don't understand. We only want open apostates in an Islamic state to be executed. This is beyond parody. It's like when Borat assures environmentalists that Kazakhs don't hunt foxes only based. Yeah, that's true. That's true.
That's very true.
That's when Ali Dawah says, we're proud of that. And no, I'm only saying in Islam, in a true Islamic caliphate. It's like it's a classic no true Scotsman fallacy. So these guys would even, I know for now they're supporting the Taliban, but even then, when they're pushed and they're embarrassed for Taliban's human rights violations, they would, when they feel that they're cornered, they might say, oh, well, they're not the real Islam. They're not following the real Islam. And then they would say, okay, now you don't have to execute apostates. I'm not so sure about Ali Dawah, because Ali Dawah probably is a bit of a sociopath as well. But if you pushed ordinary Muslims, even the kind of Muslims, as I said, the 55% Pakistanis, as shared earlier in the news story, that 55% of Pakistanis are supporting, they want Afghanistan Taliban kind of form of government in Pakistan as well. But if you showed them how, like all these barbaric practices that come straight out of Islam and Taliban's are executing it, pardon the pun, then this 55% will drop, but it wouldn't drop. But right now they just kind of, but then they glorify it when they don't see it in practice. They glorify it and they say, well, in a true Islamic state, yeah, apostates should be executed. But when you show them an apostate getting executed, they're like, maybe they start making excuses.
You answered that really well. I fully like that. It's when it suits them, they say that. And sitting here again comfortably in the West, they'll be like, I'm not saying this should be an Islamic state, but I'm saying in a typical perfect Islamic state, yes, that is the punishment that would be carried out under Islamic law. But like, I think completely agree with you in the sense that if they were prodded just that little bit further, they would outright, it's because of where they are that they have to almost like filter it down a notch. But yeah,
but do you think?
Borat, yeah.
Sorry, but do you go finish the Borat comment?
No, go ahead. I was just
no, but I was going to ask you, because a lot of people actually criticize me. They say, Haris, you're being optimistic there, because when we see people like Hakikachu, when they openly say no, sex slavery is fine, child marriage is fine, wife beating is fine, and then I say the most decent Muslims won't believe in it. And now I've seen some people who have come to my show and they've said, no, Islam, there's no child marriages in Islam. Sex slavery was just the evil necessity at the time. It can never be applied. Islam paved the way for slavery to be abolished later on. Blah blah. They try to go a really benign version of Islam, but when they see people like Hakikachu pit against me, they're like, ha ha ha, our guy won. So I'm like, Naveed Afzal is a guy who's a regular on our shows, in Urdu shows, and I'm like, so when we say that, if you prod them, if you interrogate them a little bit more, then would you actually own this or would you not own this? And we say, and that's just maybe our optimism coming out, and we say no, they probably would reject it then. But now I'm having second doubts. Would they reject it?
See, I think that too, like the what you're referring to is actually like a large group of people, and within that they all kind of are at varying levels of what they know about Islam and accept to be true, and their own cognitive biases that they hold. So the things that they're willing to, like, you could be part of that whole Muslim like troll gang, let's say, but you could genuinely be one of those Muslims who hold the view that slavery was just kind of weaned out, but Islam did that, as opposed to Hakikachu's view of slavery is, it was
bring
necessary.
Back slavery.
Yeah, and we can bring it back exactly under under real Sharia. So I think it's really hard to kind of paint everybody with that same paintbrush, because some people would genuinely want to, that when they're telling you these things, that no, that was just that, it had to happen that way and it had to, go that way, and I'm not really advocating it for it. Maybe that genuinely is their belief. So those are the people, I think, within that group that you can actually, those are the ones who would be more willing to engage with us, because it goes back to what you said, that switch of empathy is in them, because they know at some level that that's not a 21st century value. or like how can I actually fully hold on to that. But then you also have the extreme side of things where you have people like Daniel Hakikachu who are not afraid to say it, but like you said, they work in our favor as well because they're revealing the nastiness within Islam by themselves. So obviously that whole group is made up of people who cheerlead for them, but maybe that person doesn't hold the exact same view that Hakikachu does. But because you're a Muslim and you have to side with that, you have to side with your own member, which is what I know you were talking about the other side where we don't all pull together when, someone is in that situation, but Muslims do. They are tribalistic like that.
So that's just one guy I'm talking about. There's this professor, I forgot his name. He's a PhD candidate, not there yet, but he's an academic, Dr. Jawad or something. I can't remember his name. So he's another one of those. He doesn't like Hakikachu. He obviously doesn't like me either. But after watching the debate, he was like, "Oh, his arguments were making sense. He won." His whole narrative is that Islam doesn't condone slavery, sex slavery. They throw out all the hadiths and everything. But when it comes to supporting a Muslim brother, they stand by that. And, Susanna spoke her mind. She's an atheist, belongs to my camp, but there's no tribalism, even though she's an exception, though. But having said that, so what is this? Like, so I don't know, maybe, there was a meme. I don't know if you remember that meme when it said there's a Westerner or apostate is being killed by a rabid-looking what's that Malangi's name? Sabur Ahmed looking like guy killing this apostate or something, and then there's a moderate Muslim standing next to him and saying, "Sorry, that's not real Islam," but it's not doing anything, and it's smiling.
Yeah. I see it, and there's one that goes. He goes, "Sorry, my God, I won't kill you if you don't believe in my God, but he will."
Yeah, yes, exactly, and they're not doing anything about it. So this is so hypocritical, and I still, I don't know, maybe I'm being optimistic, but I still like to see the light at the end of the tunnel, and I think that once they get out of this phase, if we keep repeating our arguments over and over again, that these little boys jumping up and down, we won or whatever, those who support these, basically they're supporting Hakikachu's views. When this hype gets out and they probably go whatever emotional issues they're having, racism issues, the hatred that they have for the West, once that fizzles out, I hope that common sense will prevail and they would say, maybe what Hakikachu is saying, or people like these guys are saying, is terribly evil to its core. But anyway,
and I just one last thing on that point is because when I'm talking about like how the various people within this group of, let's say, the Muslims, especially the ones that came at you after the debate, so you've got the ones that genuinely do believe what Hakikachu believes, and then you've got the ones who might genuinely think slavery is wrong and shit, like how do I justify it? Maybe it was product of its time and it needed to happen and Islam helped get rid of it. Fine, delusional, but fine. But then you also have that group who are like, you've got Hakikachu, then you've got moderate ones who are kind of just like deluded. And then you've got the ones who are really, really like the news article you showed about the Pakistani board. They are actively engaging in intellectual dishonesty, cover-ups and lies. So they know that what they have to do, their entire brand, their preaching, their proselytizing has to be Islam light. But deep down, they believe in real Islam, like let's just say real, like as in Daniel Hakikachu's Islam. So those are the people who are, I think, actively tasked to keep Islam under wraps and lie to people, like the way we as Muslims were lied to, for example. Like, I don't know Aisha's age and things like that. If we're lied to so...
Or one version of the Quran.
Or one version of the Quran, exactly. So, and like I said, it's only the fact that you can you can maintain these lies for a long period of time, or you can engage in taqiyya whenever you want. But it's only because of that Islam like elongates its lifespan. Because once those lies start coming out, then it's just a slippery slope. And that's what like is happening day in, day out with every single YouTuber, every person that says they're ex-Muslim, every debate that happens and Hakikachu says these things and people wake up to what a possible reality could be of Islam. So yeah, I think there's loads of different elements that work within that camp, but a massive part of it, and like we've seen from what you've shared today, is that Islam requires deception at some level, whether it's by their own authority or the people who like safeguard it and give their message or like proselytize. Like a lot of these Western, like if I was sitting here today in a burqa with just my eyes showing, the BBC would probably want to interview me and lap it up and put me there as like this woman who's so comfortable in niqab, and like she's still so, you know, like there's a huge, and it's only because you have, I'd say, moderate to like progressive Muslims who are showing that face as well to the West, where they're giving this idea of a moderate Islam light that is compatible with human rights, and the West laps it up because they're too afraid to say otherwise or question it. But that's why that's our job, and it's so important to bring back the link and say this is Islam, mate.
I'm just going to say, let's move on from this one. But, you know, those of you who know me, and I think Abdullah Samim spoke pretty much along the same lines. I used to say that don't use the word taqiyya. You know, I know that comes from a negative frame of mind. But now that I'm looking at these people like Dr. Jawad or Javed, whatever his name is, I'm seeing that declaring Cole as standing by Haqiqatjou's side, when these guys stand by that. So I'm sorry. So what? You're an academic. So are you doing taqiyya then? Are you lying? You're lying then. On one hand, you're trying to tell us that there's no sex slavery, no child marriages, wife beating in Islam. And then you say, Haqiqatjou made good points. Haqiqatjou won. So is this taqiyya then? I mean, these are the kind of people who, you know, like who probably making me reconsider my position on whether this is taqiyya or not. Anyway.
And sorry, just last thing, but this also it really highlights the problem of dogma. Like, this is what dogma does to you, and this is what you will, if I show you evidence of like literally something at face value, like a coin dropping from the ground, and you see it with your eyes, your dogma would still make you somehow cling on to it. You will throw away everything to cling on to that. And again, whether you call it taqiyya, whether you call it intellectual dishonesty, whether you call it straight up deception, that is the product of dogma.
To help me produce more videos like these, support me on Patreon or PayPal.